Welcome to The Nest Show, the podcast that brings you insights into the crypto market, trading and investment experiences, and what we're looking forward to as we navigate the space together. Before we get started with the show, I want to thank our friends and sponsors over at Prime XBT, where many of our listeners have already signed up to trade by visiting the birbnest.com/PrimeXBT. Now, we're excited to reward you with a very special offer brought to you by our friends at Prime. Visit the announcement channel on our Discord to learn how you can receive a one-time trading bonus equal to 50% of your deposit amount. Exciting times indeed. Prime XBT is the most powerful trading platform offering immediate access to over 30 assets. Users may trade cryptocurrencies, forex, commodities, stock indices, and much more, all from a single Bitcoin-settled account. Prime XBT gives experienced traders up to 100x leverage to multiply their capital, while also providing users with multiple order types, low trading fees, and ultra-high liquidity to equip them with a one-of-a-kind trading experience. Registration does not require any user information, so visit the link below and start trading on Prime XBT in minutes. You'll be hearing much more about Prime XBT here and why we're so excited about the products they already offer, including a one-of-a-kind BTC and Ethereum options trading platform called Turbo, and an upcoming co-vesting product that will give traders and investors alike an entirely unique opportunity to multiply their capital. We're excited to congratulate the Prime XBT team on a couple of project milestones, starting with the launch of direct crypto purchases with the use of credit and debit cards. To learn more about how to purchase crypto on the Prime XBT platform using debit or credit cards, visit Prime XBT today for a complete walkthrough. Also, we want to regard Prime for their progress integrating TradingView chart technology into their charting platform, and their continued progress with the co-vesting module that will allow traders to mirror the activity of other traders. To find out more about the extensive progress of the co-vesting build-out, visit the Prime XBT blog for the most up-to-date information. Now for the show. Today we are joined by a guest I could not be more excited to host, Nicholas Merton. Nick is most well known in the crypto community for his wildly successful YouTube channel DataDash, which has been providing nearly daily updates in the crypto space and global financial markets for years. In addition to his channel, Nick is well known for his work in quantitative analysis and has been a prized guest speaker at some of the most reputable cryptocurrency conferences around the world. Nicholas Merton, however, is just getting started. In addition to discussing how he got where he is today, we're excited to bring our listeners a taste of the services Nick brings to the table with his latest venture, Digifox. Digifox is a new financial services app currently available on iOS and Android that provides seamless wallet services for users. This from the Digifox team. Digifox is an app that can aggregate the vast majority of your financial needs. Whether it's managing your savings, making payments, managing your taxes, or buying cryptocurrencies, they've got you covered. No need to manage countless apps or input your personal information a dozen times on different applications. Additionally, users can earn upwards of 8% APR on their balances by using the app. That should grab your attention, along with other impressive details on this episode of The Nest Show. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the ride. What The Nest Show is. This is a podcast brought to you by the Birb Nest community, an independent crypto and forex-centered trading community built to sharpen each other in capturing opportunities in the markets while protecting capital along the way. What this is not. Trading advice. We are not financial advisors, and you should not regard any information here or in the Nest Club as financial advice. You should always consult a licensed financial advisor before making any financial decisions. All right, folks, welcome to today's episode of The Nest Show. You can probably hear the smile on my voice right now because we're joined by a very special guest near and dear to my heart, Nicholas Merton of DataDash. Nicholas, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you guys for having me. It's going to be a fun conversation.
Absolutely. And we are also joined by Adrian. Adrian, thank you so much for being here and connecting Nick with our audience, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, and I'm even more excited for having you and, well, Nicholas as our VIP. Like super legendary, and I could go on and on with superlatives, over here. It's extremely blessing, to have you here, guys, and I'm looking forward to having all of this fun conversation going on.
Yeah, and Nick, I got to say, we feel equally blessed to have you here with us, especially in such close succession to you launching your new application, Digifox. Most of our listeners and most of the crypto media space will know you, of course, from your YouTube channel, Data Dash, who has amassed close to 350,000 followers and is a proverbial leader in the space. And I just want to say that before I got started with Birb and the rest of the Nest, you were one of the first voices that I really gravitated towards. And my girlfriend, she, every time she sees you, streaming on our Roku TV, she's just like, that guy's going places. Why can't you be more like Nick? But in all seriousness, you've done an impressive job with, your educational efforts, and, really excited to hear what you have going on with Digifox and all you're doing in the application space. So I'd love to open it up to you, man. Why don't we start out with the beginning of Data Dash, your channel, and kind of how it grew and took on its own groundswell, and how that led you into your latest venture with Digifox.
Yeah, man. Well, first, I thank you guys for the warm intro. I think that there's it's a long story to tell, but I'll try to keep it as short as possible. I originally was interested, as I was actually quite young. I got interested in financial markets and just kind of understanding how the world worked to a lot of degrees. And, before I even knew about crypto or Bitcoin, the way that I actually kind of, got involved in finance was through traditional equities. So I did investing in like US stocks, foreign stocks as well that traded on the NASDAQ. Got into a lot of like emerging like technology sectors and just a generally broader like kind of macro sectors that were starting to kind of evolve and had a lot of potential to multiply in investments. So I think those were the early warning signs. I really kind of realized I was a macro investor at heart, and I loved kind of spotting those next 5-10x opportunities over the next 2 or 3 years. So I was basically starting to trade. I actually opened up my first brokerage account when I was 13. So just back when I was in public education was the first time I'd opened up my own brokerage account with my dad. And I actually went through and I started investing in companies. The first 2 stocks I bought were like I put $900 split between 2 stocks into like a Chinese solar company, and then the other was $450 into a medical marijuana penny stock. And I like instantly learned early on about like the calamities of gambling on very risky penny stock companies, and kind of learned all those hard lessons manually going through the markets. But it was a lot of fun because I ended up actually negating all my losses with my first other trade in the solar company. So it was such a joyride. I mean, I had such a good time and stuff doing it, and I was constantly learning things. I'd spent a year beforehand actually opening my brokerage account, learning about markets. And then over the next few years, I just kept learning about it. And back in actually at the same time when I was getting into investing, I actually got into it because I learned about the central banking system. I learned about traditional finance, learning about the kind of corruption in the central banking system as well. That's kind of led to the cyclical process of boom and bust cycles that I think many people in crypto inevitably go down when they go down the rabbit hole. But I'd found out about Bitcoin in 2011 as a brand name. And at the time, I watched this video called What is Bitcoin? It's a really famous video now. It has probably like 8 or 10 million views. And it's this little cartoon animation, no more than like 2 or 3 minutes, that explains what Bitcoin is. And when I heard things like blockchain and mining, it was just way over my head. I was just like, this sounds to me like it's a scam on like libertarian guys like me who are just looking for a better alternative. So I made a very poor mistake. Instead of looking at the Bitcoin white paper as I should have, I was a trader at the time, and I wanted to see, what are people paying for these things? Is there a market for this? And I found out about Bitstamp was the only one at the time I could find a price feed for that was pretty substantial. And they had it was like $3 per Bitcoin in November 2011. And I keep hitting myself every time because I just honestly think back, and I was like, dude, who would pay $3 for a digital scam like this? This is so ridiculous. So I thought it was just like everyone. I had the skeptical nature to it. It was foreign to me. I didn't get it. And years later, as the years went by, I started to witness, the rush of the Silk Road and how Bitcoin rose to be like $1,000 asset. And then outside of that as well, I watched as, Mt. Gox or Magic the Gathering online exchange, had the first major hack in the crypto space, and how they just dismantled the whole industry. And I thought, okay, the bubble's over here. And then when it rose back up to those highs after such a devastating event in 2016, that was the moment I was like, you know what? I need to read the white paper. I need to learn what this is. And after reading it about 2 or 3 times, I finally got it. So it was an incredible kind of journey just to kind of see how the industry went ahead, from the sidelines. And then once I started to get it, and once it clicked in my head what Bitcoin was, I instantly went down the rabbit hole. And day by day, my free time was constant research, constantly looking into the kind of innovative aspects of cryptocurrencies sooner or rather than later, learning about Ethereum, learning about the new protocols and coins that were available on the market outside of just Bitcoin and Litecoin. It was really cool. It was a journey. And what happened at the same time is I was going through university, and I actually ended up dropping out and participating in an educational program called Praxis. And long story short, it led me to working out in Silicon Valley. It was like an internship program where I was working at an emerging, emerging software company in the Valley. And at the same time, I created my YouTube channel in pursuance of my career. And that's the name where the name Data Dash comes from. I was going to be doing data analytics. And I happened to create a whole series on learning how to do SQL or SQL. It's basically a language for querying data and managing databases and doing data analytics. And I was like, you know what? I need to showcase to employers. This channel was meant for like employers to see. I need to showcase that I'm actually passionate about data. That I love finding trends and take my traditional market experience. And I did that, and inevitably, I ended up creating a few videos on cryptocurrencies at the time. And I remember this. I think it was like the first or second video got like 100 views, and I was like, okay, this is big. Like I have no subscribers. This is obviously a topic people want to hear about. And whether it's me or the topic, I don't care. I think people obviously want to see these videos. So I just kept doing 2 videos every day. It started off in the summer as I was going through my internship program. And into the next few months, we ended up growing the largest YouTube channel, both on a basis of views and subscribers. And I was just completely blown away because I had fond memories looking back, or not so much fond memories, pretty bad memories where I would be asked by people to teach them about finance and try to explain it to them. And then 5 to 10 minutes later, you could just tell they lost interest. So I always thought, I'm a very bad teacher in that case. I probably am not built for this. So that was kind of the initial backstory to the channel. And nowadays I still create videos. It's been a fantastic journey so far. And now I'm I'm not only continuing the content, I still create about 4 or 5 videos a week, sometimes 6 if I want to create some on the weekends. But outside of that, I'm working on my own fintech startup in the cryptocurrency space to hopefully scale out the next wave of cryptocurrency users and make it simple for a broader audience.
I'd love to bring in Adrian on this just as a side note, because, both of you have broad skills in quantitative analysis and, specifically looking at the bigger picture. Adrian, I'd love to hear about how you and Nick, came to know each other and whether or not you've, been a fan of his, leading up to that, et cetera.
That's a great question. I think everybody knows the answer to that already for the later part. Of course, I'm a huge fan. It's not a surprise, guys. Yeah, I believe, like, to the best of my memory, we had the meeting over, in WCC, the World Crypto Conference, back in October to November 2019 in Las Vegas. And, I was having such a great time, just being, a presenter, a keynote speaker on the Crypto IQ stage, under Charlie Shrem's, like a brand, let's say, back then, right? While presenting on the stage, I was extremely lucky to be able to meet, with Bagzy, with Scott Melker, and with Nye, obviously, because Nye these were the beautiful times that Nye was back then still in crypto. We met with Nicholas, and I can remember, like, even Anya, my fiancée, who's just sitting next to me, like, she praised you for, being so easy about, explaining to her in a very simple language, in a very play language, something that, on the surface, quote unquote, may seem like it's extremely complex, because whenever anybody, like, straight from the public approaches you to talk about, like, blockchain or cryptocurrency, their brains, just kind of like stop for a while, right? It's kind of like hard to, digest and compress all the like data and the details of the blockchain world. But you were so extremely talented and just simply open about explaining it in such a simple words that she, without any, Anya, without any actual like knowledge or skills within the blockchain back then, she got it all the way. She understood it all. So this amazing like teaching skills, I believe, is a huge part of your brand success, I believe, personally. And the fact that you're just the owner of the largest like a crypto YouTube channel right now, the most reputable, the most popular one, is simply like just a pure confirmation for your skills. And amazing kudos for that, man. Well, having said that, I definitely you want to kind of like circle back to your appearances back then on the conference. Could you kind of like slightly expand on that? What you were having back then on the conference, on WCC World Crypto Conference?
Yeah, man. Well, I'd say back to you guys and stuff. It's been a real blessing. It was nice to get to meet because I'd actually, it's funny enough, I actually been following Crypto Birb and stuff for a while, not only on Twitter, but I think I'd also, I had a few friends and stuff who were, I think it was in the general Discord as well for a while. Because I liked the general group. It was a nice trading group. We had also the Data Dash community, but I kind of like to pull from different communities, see what people are talking about, and get different opinions and thoughts. So yeah, man, I'd been following for a while, so it was cool to get to meet in person, and I appreciate the kind remarks as well about just being able to explain everything. But yeah, that's one of the things I was there for. I was attending a cryptocurrency conference there for not only the Litecoin Summit, but also World CryptoCon, so they were kind of hand in hand. And usually if I can do kind of two conferences at once, I don't mind making the trip out there. It's fun to go out there and speak with people and meet, a lot of viewers from the channel. I actually found out the largest amount of my basis for viewers is, and I think this is most people in crypto, to be fair, it's in Las Vegas, in Nevada as a state. There's a lot of people there in crypto, and that's why the cryptocurrency conferences there are made up of a lot of great people, people who've been in the space for a very long period of time. And it kind of goes hand in hand because Bitcoin, not only obviously speculation and trading does kind of come in to a kind of gambler ecosystem, but outside of that as well, there's a lot of people like my brother. He found out about Bitcoin in 2013 because he used to play poker online and he used to use Bitcoin for it. So, but yeah, I basically went there. I was speaking a little bit about what we were working on behind the scenes and also this kind of new wave of smart wallets or kind of 2.0 wallets that we're emerging in the cryptocurrency space that are going to help people to be their own bank, but at the same time have all the same services, if not more, than what they get from their traditional exchange. And we'll be able to do things in as decentralized of a way as possible, but at the same time in the most practical way as possible as we scale out to a larger audience. But yeah, man, that was the major reason I was there. It's a fun time. It was my first time ever going to Las Vegas, and I'll be honest. I have to say, I didn't think I'd like it. It was kind of fun. It's a little flashy, but it's a fun place and stuff, and it's just cool. I mean, I think more than anything, it was fun to see so many awesome people. Like you mentioned, Bagsy, a lot of the guys from the crypto space that I know. So yeah, man, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. With the Las Vegas being like extremely flashy, right? Actually, if you don't like pull up your curtains, in the room, there's no way you could actually sleep in the night.
Oh yeah, dude. It's like, and they even what's crazy is I learned that they specifically keep, if you notice in like some of the hotels, one of the ones we were staying at, the hallways are always lit up, and they have these kind of light structures that look like windows. And the whole objective of that is to basically keep you awake and thinking that it's the daytime. So you go down and you go on the casino floors and you go down to the slot machines, and to not have a concept of time. It's pretty freaky when you think about it. But yeah, it's, I guess, smart business practice.
Yeah, that's actually true, right? That's very true. I mean, that's the perfect way to describe it. I'm just at the same time kind of like trying to check back if you remember, because back in 2017, there was also like this dedicated like cryptocurrency for Vegas. That was Legends Room, LGD. Not sure if you recall that.
I remember the Legends Room. Yep, because I remember on Bittrex that was the talk of the town for a week.
Yeah, these were like the beautiful times when every altcoin single, like just back then, was pumping like crazy, right? And I can remember just studying the screen, and there's some like casino coin like with hookers and alcohol and all that was just pumping straight twice, 2-3x like right out of nowhere. And I was remembering like back then, like, damn, I want to go to Vegas just for the sake of this coin and making me so money. I think I always tell this Vegas, just for that sake. But it's been extremely, I would say, extremely interesting place, for me also to attend, all the conferences, because the time we met, this had been actually just my second time I was in Vegas. The prior one was in 2018. I'm kind of like, I was just back then as the attendee. I was not a presenter, so I was just kind of like passive on that part. But I was like extremely shocked back then, just by the way, how Las Vegas works. And I mean, the entire industry, just the way it looks physically, about it, flash, those flashy lights and all that. But about just how the entire city just lives there, right? And I'm just speaking as a person from EU, from European, just zone in a way, from Poland. So it's kind of like quite straightforward, different edge of the world, with no city of this kind, just on our end. So it is like extremely exotic, like an experience.
Nick, I'd love to take this opportunity to kind of rein us back into your pursuit with Digifox. And I recently downloaded the app off of the App Store and encourage our listeners to do the same because it's very slick. And especially coming from you, I was excited to try it out, and it hasn't disappointed. I'd love for our listeners to hear what your main goal is with Digifox and how you foresee it helping to rein in personal finances to truly be under the control of the owner of the wallet.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think basically, over the last few years and stuff, doing YouTube and also beforehand, spending the past couple of years of my life going through the journey of personal finance, I'm very thankful that I've been a passionate individual when it comes to finance. But even being passionate and being willing to put in the time, it's extremely complex. I mean, that's what I think about when I see people my age who kind of get stumbled on finance or they don't take the time to manage their personal finances. It's understandable. The system is completely outdated, whether you're talking about traditional commercial banks or even a lot of the great fintech apps that are out there. There was kind of three key issues that I discovered over the last few years that I wanted to see resolved. First off is that complexity. Even if, for example, you have all these great applications out there, they're fragmented. They do one or two things, and you have to have about a dozen different applications to manage every corner of your finances. You need your banking app, you need your stock trading app, you need your crypto buying app, you need something to do your taxes, do accounting, to do budgeting, all kinds of different aspects, and it's just way too complex. Outside of that as well, you've got this issue where the key issue, I think, for an average everyday person in managing their personal finances is that they have their money sitting in a savings account. And right now in the US, the average savings rate that people get paid out is 0.07%, practically nothing. And at the same time, banks on average in the US are walking away with profit margins of over 24%. And no one expects or challenges otherwise to be able to receive some kind of yield or to earn some of that money that the bank is making off of their deposits. It's this really bad issue that's been getting worse and worse since the 80s. And outside of that as well, in the sense of like the third problem we discovered that I really focused in on was the friction in payment networks. I can send a message or a file across the world for practically nothing. And at the same time, when it comes to money, I have to spend, in the case of, cash sending apps like Venmo, I have to spend up to 1% of the overall trade volume or transaction volume that I'm sending if I want to get it instantly settled. Or if I'm doing something, like remittance payments, I can pay up to, entire single digit percentage points of what I'm sending, sometimes double digit. And worst off is when I'm doing like a wire transfer, for a business or for just a bank account to another bank account in another country. You can spend up to $25 to $45 for that. And it's absolutely ridiculous. Money shouldn't be this costly to send. And money should move just like language does over the web, just like how files move over the web. So what we're basically trying to do is we realized these three problems, and we realized we needed to build an all-in-one finance app that not only aggregates all your financial needs into one specific application, but outside of that as well, allows you to earn high rates of interest, get exposure to new asset classes like cryptocurrencies, and eventually hopefully the broader asset classes like equities and precious metals and bonds and treasuries. But outside of that as well, gives you the ability to send payments across the world. No matter if I'm covering dinner for when we grab dinner sometime this week or something, or if I'm sending money to family or friends overseas in an entirely different country. It's basically fixing all of those key elements and opening it up to everyone. That's a very key message of ours, is making finance for everyone. It's our slogan. We want to basically build it so someone in Kenya has the exact same financial opportunities as far as we can push the boundaries to someone in the United States. And that's the key goal, is just to make everyone on a fair playing field and to build finance that just works for the people. We're a business, but we want to make sure that we, at the end of the day, are making people happy and are giving them the best experience possible.
And I think that, all of our listeners can relate to, these core functions and pursuits. You mentioned your partners in this. Yeah, as we were talking pre-show, I'd love to expand a little bit on the process of taking this from concept to launch and and any, strategic partnerships or any core advisors that you won over in the process and what those conversations were like? Did you have people coming to you to pitch you ideas, or were you really spearheading this the entire way? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, and I think it's honestly a great question. So when we started, like when I officially had the concept for Digifox as a whole, I mean, even in the early stages when the business model was a little more focused on just earning interest, we went a lot of the way and stuff. I basically had to take charge because people only know you're building something unless you get it out there and you're proposing the idea to people. And I, for example, originally was working with like an outsourced team to develop the first iteration of the app. And I just ended up not really liking, what had come out of it. I wasn't, after the amount of time we'd been waiting and stuff, it wasn't moving at the pace we wanted. And it was also built for a desktop rather than mobile. So that was a big change that I knew we had to make. So I ended up later on going through the hiring process again. And I found two really great people and stuff. Really, I found it through the developer side. My developer, who's the lead engineer, Chase, who's still working on the team. And he's an absolutely fantastic developer. He's gone from someone, who had really only known the basics about crypto at the time, because it just somebody who wasn't his major passion at the time. He didn't really know too much about crypto, to becoming an absolute expert when it comes to cryptocurrencies in a matter of a couple of months. So we started our work back in September on the application together. And he's picked up the frontier knowledge of the entire crypto space. It's been an absolute privilege to just watch that journey and stuff, and seeing someone pick up the technology so quickly and be able to integrate it into a beautiful application. And the thing too is on the design side, we also have an individual known as Madison. She's our lead designer as well. And just working with her, I mean, it's amazing. Again, someone who wasn't previously really interested in crypto, being able to understand the crypto space and to be able to take all these really complex applications that exist in the world of crypto and make it just absolutely seamless for the user. In regards to the partnerships, again, we had to reach out to them. We didn't have too many people reaching out initially. Now we're getting some, now that we've got, users and people know about us. We were kind of under the shadows for a while because I wanted to make sure we revealed it with a bang. And, we released it on June 15th, but we had originally wanted to work with the best players we knew personally, people who we've talked to in the industry for a long time. And the ones that we knew were the best audited, the most respectable, and the ones that were at the end of the day had the better interest of the user in their mind. Because if we knew if we could aggregate those services into one app, then we'd have the best application on the market, or at least we were on the path to building the best app. So we integrated Celsius Network and Compound, both of which are deposit platforms in the crypto space. One of them is more decentralized. Compound is a smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain, where you literally can just take your dollar stable coins, you send them to the smart contract, and you pull it out, a couple months later to a year more. You can even pull it out tomorrow if you don't really want to keep it in there, and you'll earn a form of interest with it, which is really exciting. And the same goes for Celsius. You can earn up to 7 to 8% interest in Celsius right now. So when you deposit into Digifox, you basically have this on-ramp from your bank or a debit card. And then after that, you just go on and deposit it into Celsius, and you can start earning much higher rates of interest than what you get your bank, 100 times more. And the reason why is because unlike the banking sector, what we're doing is, whereas banking has actually conglomerized a lot over the last few years, we've gone from around 22,000 bank branches in the US to 6,000 since 1980. So less than a third of what we used to have. But along with that, in the case of Digifox, we're going from having one platform that plugs into all the lending pools out there, basically all of the potential areas where you can put your capital to work and earn a rate of interest. And of course, at the end of the day, it's not just yield. We factor in a lot of things like security, insurance packages, make sure that people's deposits are safe. That's the key goal of having savings. You got to make sure it's safe. But above all, as well, we want to make sure to give people the best deal possible while doing all of those things.
Adrian, are there any current competitors that you've encountered there in the EU?
We in Poland, we don't really have, especially in Poland, I mean, we are kind of strongly lagging behind, the actual, I would say, blockchain standard. And there are countries like Netherlands or Portugal, right, or even Estonia, to the best of my knowledge, that are much more progress oriented, much more progressive with regard to the actual global trends within the finance sector as well. And this comes with awesome and more, I would say, acceptable taxation policy over that, right? Because in Poland, cryptocurrencies are not even considered to be anything concrete by by Polish law, right? So and our government, like to the best of the experience we've had past years, well, they are not really trying to push any solutions to that, right? They just kind of like mitigated the entire topic to be discussed. They didn't pretty much like consider this to be important whatsoever to discuss it to find some actual solutions, because well, that was actually just like extremely, I would say, stupid. Excuse my language for that, but it was like extremely stupid, and I'm saying that from the bottom of my heart. Situation with taxation in Poland that when you were trading cryptocurrency back in 2017 or 18. This was more considered to be just the way you would kind of like have the civil rights that are sold between the parties in a way, right? You would have like this ownership like a document agreement, right? And that you would just simply pass over this ownership license, right? It's hard, I guess, to convert, to the international law structure. But all in all, the actual result was that even while trading cryptocurrency and even while like having extreme losses, like imagine you were playing like with bots, right? You were trading bots. Your main strategy was just simply algo trading. Even if these bots just turned on like hundreds of transactions every single day, then they would charge you 1% of the actual size of the transaction every single time once the transaction can just simply realize it. Right, and there was such an extremely ridiculous situation that there was a guy who traded, I believe, with like 15,000 PLN, which is the Polish currency, the Polish zloty, but to the dollars, I believe it was like 4K or so dollars, right, $4,000, and he was charged like 100 times more of tax. So he was like literally due to pay like a couple of $100,000 of taxation for trading and losing all this capital because of the actual well adjusted the legal structure for that, right? So well, being very honest, it kind of like sucks big time, right? And I'm very sad to talk about it because well, we could have easily just kind of considered this topic to be more of a opportunity than a danger, right? It's not like the actual like financial trends like the fintech sector as it is like with the blockchain industry. I mean, it's just being adopted as we speak, right? I myself, have just recently paid with crypto.com like this MCO Visa card that I got, and well, it just works, right? And it didn't work back then when there was not such a situation, not such an opportunity to use it, right? Because Visa was not accepted or by any means like connected with cryptocurrencies, well, until these days. So there is some visible progress going on, but Poland is definitely not the country that you would see this progress going on well. Yeah, this is the reason why I think like Digifox as a great solution to that would be an amazing opportunity and an amazing platform for many people to actually just manage their finance, and that's the actual goal, I guess, right? Isn't it?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about with the Polish tax structure and stuff. It was very kind of backwards and stuff. It's the same kind of concept of like something like, I think it was I don't know if it was the Robin Hood tax or something, but it was basically like years ago, this tax structure had been proposed where it was basically to disincentivize traders. And the whole thing is that, at that point, if you know that you're always going to pay 1% of the trade volume, you could even register a loss and you still owe money. And that's different compared to the US here, whereas like if I make, money or if I make a return on an investment, then I have to pay taxes. If I like close it, like if I realize it, if on the other hand, I lose money, I get to write that off as a loss. And I can use that in order to pay off, or to reduce my tax obligation in the future. So like, let's say, for example, as a total of all my investments, let's say this year I lost $10,000, right? And then you could basically, you could wipe off $10,000 worth of gains or taxes that you would owe on $10,000 of gains because you already paid it previously in a previous tax cycle. So that's a very important thing. That's very true. I know Poland went through that. But yeah, in the sense of Digifox, yeah, I mean, it's like a lot of new emerging crypto apps that they're starting to build much better interfaces for people to just simply enjoy the utilities that this space has to offer. One of the utilities that we've constantly talked about in this space is Bitcoin and Ethereum being these digital hedges and assets. And I completely agree. I think Bitcoin is going to be one of the best assets in the next decade, in my opinion. That's why I'm holding a lot of Bitcoin. I'm holding a lot of different cryptocurrencies. I'm hoping my overall general crypto portfolio continues to grow. But the problem is that it's kind of it's a bit dull when the only use case we find in this space is just having something created and then holding it. When there's so much great utility out there, and there's a lot of people who need that utility. If you think about the 1.7 billion people who are unbanked, but even if you think about the people who are banked right now, who have access to standard banking services, in Western countries and stuff, can get access to a variety of different commercial banks, it still sucks. It's terrible. There's not much to compete against. The traditional system is not very favorable to the everyday person because it's gotten so centralized. It's lost focus on focusing on the end user. And they've just built these complex structures to kind of gut one another and stuff and constantly cut competition. Whereas you have this entirely new space of cryptocurrencies and decentralized technologies through DeFi or decentralized finance that are constantly collaborating with one another, are constantly building better products, that are constantly looking to integrate with one another. And that's the whole thing Digifox is. It's integrating the best services possible to give you the best experience. Because at the end of the day, if you want to look at it in a solely business perspective, if we don't offer the best services, someone else will. And that's the great thing about open finance. It's not about, price gouging. It's not about monopolies. It's not about looking in the better interest of Wall Street or institutional investors. It's about what can you give to an everyday person and how can you do it the best way possible. And I think that's the cool thing. It's real reopening of the kind of free market we used to have in finance that we've lost for a very long period of time, and doing so in a very simple way. So sorry to get all kind of talk about the moral thesis of it, but I think that's it's an important part of it. And I think there's no better technology for the time. I mean, this is a time when people need it most of all. When we had what happened over the last few months and stuff in this world where the entire economy shut down. People need credit. They need better financial services. They need a hedge. They need a way to step out of the traditional financial system and have sovereignty over their money. And I think that's becoming much more appealing as we progress through the years.
You touched on some great points there, and I want to make sure that our listeners understand, exactly the value proposition with some of these services like Compound and Celsius. That I was just looking. Celsius, I think, currently offers upwards of 8.34% APR on USDC deposits, and Compound offers over 11% on USDT. Which I was pretty floored by. But in a nutshell, how can users expect to recoup that kind of return from, let's say, Celsius on the 8.34% APR on the USDC?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the tether on Compound actually usually isn't that high. There's a certain anomaly going on right now because Compound just launched its own token, and it's a whole other story and stuff. But in the sense of Celsius, those rates are very normal, around 7 to 8%. And the reason they're able to actually pay these rates, because I get that question a lot, it's a very fair one because it's much higher than standard commercial banks, is because of the market they're lending out to and the profit margins that Celsius shares. So I'll explain it from the beginning. So there's two people in the equation every single day when it comes to a bank or a new age bank like Celsius. There's lenders or depositors who put their money into the accounts of one of these banks. And then on the other end, there's someone who needs to borrow that money. The whole service of a bank is basically credit management. It's managing deposits and seeing who's creditworthy and who can we lend out to and giving them that money and charging an interest rate. So it's a very simple service, right? And it's something that I think, a lot of people could do at the end of the day if they just know the right formulas and the proper procedures. And Celsius does this, right? And the way that they do this compared to, say, traditional markets is a bit different. They're usually lending out to two categories of people, either cryptocurrency exchanges or margin traders, people who obviously, as you guys probably know, and as some of the traders on the podcast know, people who want to take on like a leverage position or take a position that increases their risk profile. So if Bitcoin goes up 1%, they could see a 2% increase on their portfolio position because they have a 2x leverage position. So what we basically do, and what Celsius does more specifically, is they go to exchanges and margin traders and they say, hey, if you have some crypto assets like Bitcoin or Ethereum, lock up twice the amount of a dollar loan that you want to take out. So just to put it simple, let's say I had $20,000 of Bitcoin. I could take a $10,000 loan out from Celsius at a 2-to-1 loan to value ratio, or excuse me, a 2-to-1 value to loan ratio in this case, right? So I'm putting up twice the amount of collateral, and I'm getting basically half in that case in regards to a cash loan. Now, some people ask, why is that? Why would you do that? Because you still technically own those assets so long as you pay back the loan. So what I can do now with those $10,000, if I'm at exchange, is I can go do normal standard operations. I can use dollars to provide liquidity. Outside of that as well, in regards to margin traders, it's a little more clear. I can go use those dollars to go buy more Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin's price goes up to, double the value it's at, then I pay back my loan with the interest and I make some extra profit. Or, for example, things go south, right? Let's say, for example, Bitcoin starts going down. Then in that case, I would have to recollateralize on my loan in that case to Celsius. I basically put more deposits in. So you have a massively over-collateralized position that Celsius is holding to protect the depositors, where if the value of that collateral starts to go down, they will actually liquidate those positions for the borrowers and cover the depositors. Now, they charge usually a rate anywhere from around 10 to 13% for the borrowers. And because they give 80% of their profits back to the community, Celsius depositors can earn upwards of 7 to 8% interest. The math's very simple. It's all transparent. You can see the borrowing rates. You can see the deposit rates. You won't see that with your bank. Your bank tries to hide that reality from you as much as they can. In many cases, people don't even realize when they're putting their money in a savings account, they don't expect to earn anything, but they'll happily take out a form of a credit line through a credit card from a bank. And it could be very well their own money that's coming right back at them and they're being charged for it. So it's a bit ironic and stuff. Like, I think, if we continue to be complacent about expecting nothing, we're not only letting this entire financial system rob hundreds of billions of dollars from us every single year, which accounts to trillions of dollars over a couple of years. But outside of that as well, we're not really ever going to have true financial freedom unless we can, at the end of the day, make the best yield on our money. And take it into our own hands. People should compete for our deposits, as everyday individuals, just like every other company in the world does. Finance, it sadly just isn't the standard in that case. And that's what we're trying to change at the end of the day.
Yeah, Nick, you bring up some great points there. And I think that, we can all get behind it, especially with the notion of, becoming basically kind of getting into the, more consumer lending business and appreciate some of those gains that the banks have been making on our backs for so long. And Nick, I'd like to broaden the conversation a little bit now for both you and Adrian. You talk about the downturn in the trend from commercial banking outlets from somewhere in the mid 20,000s in the 80s to around 6,000 today. As you've mentioned in your channel, I would imagine that number would continue to dwindle as more and more bad debts come due, and more and more people on the receiving end of those loans are unable to pay them back. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, kind of on the outlook for the next 3 to 5 years as this plays out, and what that will mean to the importance of financial ownership and kind of how you foresee this maturing into the Digifox equation.
Yeah, I'd honestly love to hear Adrian's point as well on it. I think the key thing for me that I take away from the current environment, as central banks become more and more intermingled with commercial banks, I think it's just going to become more and more centralized. The environment that's coming up with excessive printing of money, lowering of interest rates, just further leads into this kind of this negative feedback loop where there's less and less competition, more and more acquisitions, and more bank mergers. And we've been already seeing this for the last few decades, but now we're really going to see it in a hyperspeed. It's just going to get worse and worse, and you're going to have less and less options. I mean, the sheer fact, I think, when we saw the JP Morgan and Chase merge, that was a pretty big telltale sign back a while ago, a couple of years back, that we were going to start entering into the age of mega banks. And I think right now, just to put it in perspective, 60% of the entire banking industry is run by mega banks. And that category is banks with over $100 billion of assets or more under their balance sheet. So you're talking about 3/5 of the entire banking sector not being, your credit unions, your mom and pop kind of banks or local branches that try to get to know you, provide the best experience, and might even offer you a little bit more on your savings. you're seeing a dominant trend where the kind of generic mainstream banks are taking over, and they don't build that personal relationship. They don't add unique value propositions for working with them specifically, and they sure as hell don't give you the yields that you're looking for. So I think with Digifox, what we're looking to do is again the opposite. It's that competitor. It's in this environment, while the traditional banking sector is stagnant, falling behind, and squeezing people dry, we're building a system that invites competition. If someone does things by the books, they build a great product, and they're trustworthy and secure, and we know they're, we make sure to do a vetting process before we add anything, to make sure they're in the interest of our users. But if they do that, if they do everything by the books properly, and they build something that's useful for people, we try to get it in there. And again, we have every incentive to do so, again, because if we don't, the great thing about open finance is someone else will. We have to build the best experience. And that's not only in an aspect of design, but also in the sense of functionality. And to make it so seamless where it just makes sense for the end user. So all of the traditional, we're trying to do two things. We're not only going to try to be something that can replace your bank. So we're not a bank at the end of the day. With Digifox, it's a crypto wallet. So you are your own bank. That's, in my opinion, I think it's an awesome feature. It's like having money in your wallet, right? It's like it's independent, and you get to put your money where, wherever you feel is best for you. So the first thing we have to do as a company at Digifox, our philosophy is we kind of have these two S curves in order to reach global adoption. The first one is to do everything your bank can do. So receive your income straight into Digifox, spend with a standard Visa debit card, and be able as well to manage your savings and earn interest, right? Exactly what a bank does, if not better, right? And then the second thing we want to do is to go far beyond what you expect from a bank. Offer free tax services. So you get free tax documents at the end of the year, all generated into one single set of forms. Having budgeting tools where you can chat with like an AI messenger inside the app with our mascot Digi, who's the fox that you see in the icon, and being able to talk back and forth about, hey, I want to plan for some kind of expenditure in the future, whether it's college for my child, or if I want to put money away for a vacation or for retirement, and being able to manage that. And then getting into like actual equities investing, portfolio management, exposure to precious metals like gold and silver, being able to really branch out our payments network and being able to do all kinds of unique things there. All kinds of different things. The constant thing is that we're an evolving app. We're never going to be stagnant, and we're always looking to bring the best service providers. Sometimes we come to the realization that there's something maybe we could do, but someone else does it better. And if it's a cost that's reasonable and stuff for the user, we'll make sure to get it in the app and everything, and make sure that it's available, because we want to have the best competition of services. And that really is, it's the true nature of DeFi that I don't think people have really realized yet, that it's just going to be a constant competition, and people are going to expect more and more, and they should. That's the cool thing about a free market, is the consumer is going to get the best potential software available to them. And that goes not only on the side of someone like the depositor on Celsius, but also for the borrower. Those borrowing rates that Celsius charges are much lower than what you expect from like a traditional bank when it comes to credit. If I went to a commercial bank and wanted to get a line of credit, I'm going to be paying 20, 25, 30, even higher percentage rates if I'm going through predatory lenders. In regards to Celsius, 10 to 13%, you can get that. That's not bad at all. So again, I think that that's what's going to happen here. Borrowers get a better deal. And what you end up getting, if you want to kind of view it from a kind of long-term perspective, the borrower gets a better deal, the depositor gets a better deal, and it squeezes out the middleman's margin to build the best effective service for the lowest cost and to provide as much efficiency as possible.
Yeah, thank you for that, Nick. I mean, for all that you've so beautifully said and described, for how, Digifox would work. And I think there's lots of great points, with regard to the actual like a consumer sector, within the finance. And I completely agree with your vision, to be fair, right? That, in a kind of like an inevitable way, it just simply keeps going towards like, offering, actually just making the businesses work better and better in more optimized ways, because otherwise there are so many businesses all over the world that, there is no like a, producer to client match, right? There is like very often like a surplus over the producers against the actual consumers, right? So it's like a kind of like a different situation to what it used to be, past decades, because now when you're actually just going, for a simple shopping, and you want to buy a washing powder to like to make a laundry, whatever. Now, then you would see like hundreds of brands, just standing out, with regard to their like washing powders, like, just products and all that, right? And you have like all the variety of colors, all the variety of ingredients and all that. But actually the way, first of all, obviously the way you sell the product, right? So the actual cover like makes the difference, but, and just cover, and also not necessarily a visible one, but the understanding for the people, for the end user, for how it works, for what they are buying, just this awareness of their end. This is what I mean by the way how we are going to sell them and sell to them. But it is inevitably needed for for any business owner, for any business, I would say, participant to the market, to the producer, to strive for becoming better and better every single day. Because, well, otherwise, if you don't follow this way, then you're just simply going to kind of like be pushed outside the market, and there's no way you can do about it. And I also wanted to touch upon, because what you've been just saying about the Digifox ideas, it sounds to me a bit that you are trying to, or actually becoming, the kind of like a concierge that would do everything in one place, right? There's this hotel room guy that would order a helicopter for you, or just like bring you the food, or like dance like a break dance all over the floor, just hotel room, whatever you require him to do, they would do this, right? I think this has been like a general trend past years, that there's like quite a demand for such concierge platforms, right? For such concierge services that people don't really need to like search all over like 10 mobile apps, right? They would just go to one place and have it all in one place. And I think that this is like a very beautiful, like a vision and very beautiful mission to deliver for you, for Digifox. And I can honestly say from my personal point of view, this is what we've been also doing with Nest pretty much. And there's like a very common, common ground and understanding between us, I believe, for kind of like trying to arrange the very same, like this concierge platform simply. Right? For the Nest, for example, we are striving to become like this leading platform to merge B2B and B2C sector within one platform, right? So this would be a brand that would include many subsidiaries, that would include like the software house, that would include like blockchain audits, that would include like tokenization, services and IT solutions. That would be like a chain of cafes and restaurants, right? And this entire like this immense, the greatest educational platform for investors or for anybody that would be interested to know and learn about like the financial freedom. Because, no matter how you look at it, banks are fucking us over all day night and all day long. Right, and they would charge you, commission. They would charge you everything they can.
Yeah, to top off your point about the banks being bad, I think it's pretty pitiful when it's legally acceptable for a bank to charge a $40 overdraft fee on someone who didn't have enough money in their bank account to buy a small purchase. I mean, that's just like the pin of how corruptive our system is, to allow something like that, to allow you to spend money that you don't have and then have to face massive penalties. That just shouldn't be able to happen. And I think each year there's about $40 billion of overdraft fees on the poorest of Americans. That's just here in the US. I mean, that's incredibly tragic, and I think you're right, man. It's an ethical mission to fight against it. I wish you guys all the best on your application and stuff. I think it's fascinating. Anything that can aggregate or bring things together and kind of stir up that competition, I think is a great service. And I think that's, again, what you've seen in like e-commerce. I think it's what you've seen in a lot of other technology platforms. It's just a matter of saying, hey, what can you give to someone? What's the best thing you can give to someone, and give them the most convenience, the best opportunities, and make them feel like they're valuable at the end of the day. Banks, they kind of treat you like a number. We're trying to build something that actually knows you as a person. Another thing we do that I think you guys will like, that I've completely forgotten to mention, is within the wallet, you actually have a line of customer support. So we have a messenger integration and stuff, where people can literally, if they run into any problems, they can not only turn to our help docs that are built into the app, but they can ping us in person and stuff, and basically straight from their phone say, hey, I'm having a problem with this. Can someone help explain this to me and stuff? And we will basically reach out to them. And I'll be honest, man, I don't really know any like crypto wallets or exchanges that have that kind of level of interaction right from the wallet. So, it's basically everything I've wanted from my traditional bank, And I have to be fair to be a bit critical on like the crypto space as a whole. It's what I've wanted from my crypto exchanges, right? I mean, you just can't get someone on the line. And I don't care if someone has, $1,000, $1 million in assets. I don't care what their net worth is. When you're trusting someone with your finances, you need to be able to reach them. And if there is if people are worried about certain things, or they can't do certain things with their money, and that's therefore it's too much of a burden for you to have to manage and contact them, you got to build a better system, right? So I think that, again, you should always give people not only that equal opportunity, but that ability as well, and that equal opportunity to reach someone and to be able to have someone to talk to. But yeah, that's a big thing that we really push at Digifox, as well as customer support and making sure that people are successful in what they want to do. If our users are happy and they're making deposits and they're making trades and they're sending payments, it helps our business grow, right? There's every incentive to do so. And it feels good as well to just really like uplift people. That's our whole mission.
Nick, you've done a tremendous job elucidating the value proposition of Digifox, and I'm looking forward to using it more often, especially as the service suite expands. But before we let you go, I wondered if you'd like to comment on some of the recent trends that we've seen here in the United States, with so many furloughed workers in finance, or just kind of fly-by-night traders that are led by David Portnoy over at Barstool Sports, and other be it Twitter gurus or self-proclaimed gurus, et cetera, who are leading this kind of merry band of traders who are either on Robinhood or whatever brokerage platform. I was reading today where a young man, and my heart goes out to his family. I believe he was a 20-year-old young man, student at the University of Nebraska, who opened up his trading application and saw that he was, I think, $700 something thousand in the red, and subsequently committed suicide. But I think it was Robinhood didn't comment on whether or not that was the actualized balance of what he owed, or if that was, a prospective balance based on options that had yet to expire, et cetera. But, he obviously saw that, and he, I believe, confided in a friend to say that, he felt like his future had been taken from him overnight. It seems as though there are many people in that position who have kind of, responded to these unprecedented times with some rash behavior and with some kind of scrambling to replace income that they've lost, or to maintain a sense of agency in their finances, and have taken on a good deal of hubris along the way. But I wanted to get your response to that day trading phenomena that we've seen develop in retail in the age of COVID. Your take, especially where David Portnoy has famously lambasted Warren Buffett, has gone down in the record books as possibly given the most loudspeaker market top as any trader ever has. But I'd just love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, as you mentioned, there's the funny parts to it, like David Portnoy and stuff that just like you can't lie, or they're entertaining to watch. But man, I'll tell you, it's stories like the one you mentioned, the kid that came out today. I read that this morning, and it kind of tears my heartstrings, because I not only, obviously it's sad to hear someone went to the point where they had to take their own life. That's such a tragic thing. But it's also an issue for the people who we won't hear about in the headlines, who maybe don't take their own life, but they're struggling after making a terrible trade that they made, or taking excessive risk. I view it in that nature. Dealing with options contracts with all of your funds. It's just like going to a casino, right? And you see how people come out of casinos. Some people know how to play there, and they play their odds well. And some people walk out of there blowing their life savings and living on living on the edge and stuff throughout their whole life, and not being able to actually make ends meet. And to me, that's tragic. Gambling's it's a hell of a problem for a lot of people. And even though you can slap a financial label on it, or say it's the stock market or it's options contracts, at that point it just becomes very degenerate gambling in that case. I hate to put it like that and stuff, because I think it can be fun. Gambling, it's hardwired into a lot of humans because we want to get some risk exposure, because as humans throughout historical times and even still to this day, risk does pay off sometimes. Me starting my own company, that's a risky venture, right? As well as you guys with the Nest and everything else, that we pursue. When you get in your car, there's risk, right? When you could get hit in a car accident, right? So you have to take risk in life. I think the thing that we would want to make sure we do it, like at Digifox, and also what I advise on the channel, and even though I can't technically advise people in regards to finances, I always try to talk from my personal experience and show to people that, longer term thinking usually pays out better. Here's the proof of it and stuff. This is how I've gotten to the point where I've gotten. And, trying to avoid, excessive risk taking, understanding where you can find an optimal risk to reward profile, and making sure you don't put all your eggs in one basket. I think, you're right. There's it's an interesting environment where that kind of risk taking can work for a lot of people, where this whole phenomenon of David and the whole Barstool phenomena has really taken off in regards to stock trading and investing, because the Fed's built the environment for it. Where the Fed is filling up the punch bowl. They poured excessive alcohol in it. They put the best flavoring packages in there. And boy, is it tasting good right now, because the stock market is teetering towards all-time highs. But when it comes down, when either Fed liquidity is not enough, or they don't have enough mechanisms to keep the speculation going, that's when it gets tragic. And when many stories, like you just mentioned, that becomes the norm. One thing that I always bring up that it just upsets me, and it's why I was so passionate about not only just the stability of an economy and stuff, but also about fighting central bank monetary policies, because those boom and bust cycles, they not only lead to ridiculous upswings sometimes, but they also lead to downfalls. And I think with every percentage of unemployment you drop, you lose about 10,000 people here in the U.S. alone. So that was something I think they talked about in The Big Short, I think was like a point they brought up. And it's true, man. It's a dark topic, because when you view it from that macro level, you really see the impact of it. People don't think about it on a day-to-day basis. They don't see it. But I care about that. I would much rather people save. I'd much rather people, think long-term. And that's the whole thing with Digifox. I mean, you can trade and buy crypto, but we don't advise. We would never advise for anything like that, nor do I on the channel to just excessively trade. Like, one thing we stay away from is just per se like derivatives, anything like that. It's not that there's not a market for it. I've traded on margin through Forex and everything, and I think that that's fine. But understanding how to manage risk properly is so key, and it's hard to teach people that sometimes when you make it so simple to get in the game so quick and not have any kind of education to it as well.
I'm very kind of sad with what happened to this, poor little guy. 20 years old is definitely, too early to take his life, right? Away out of his world. I mean, it's extremely heartbreaking to be fair and to say at least, right? That goes without saying. And I believe, just with this is, I think this is like an extremely important, just a notice, for anybody out there who knows or who is familiar with, just some people trading with large sums, trading with large accounts, and that they may not be necessarily like 100%, perhaps, I don't know, like equipped with some knowledge, or not 100%, I would say, assisted in a positive manner by the adults or by the people who like gave them the money, especially like if there are some rich parents, right, that they give like a couple of millions to their like a 16 or 15-year-old son, right, to just trade it. I think like it's extremely important to remain very responsible and very, I would say, aware to what extent it can always just bring not always like the positive outcomes, but also the negative outcomes, right? Especially when there are some sideline stories or just struggles going on for these, young men and young women. So, I'm literally like, heartbroken for that. And I think, just to kind of like, as much as it can get positive by any means, I think the best we can do is just simply we can keep delivering better and better value to the people every day, so that we make sure that work gets better every single day with our every minute spent on whatever we are dealing right with, so that our productivity doesn't really go to waste, so that amazing projects like Digifox just get the great, simply like a broadcast all over the world to fulfill their mission, this is the way we as as entrepreneurs and we as simply good people can contribute to this actual madness all over the world and make a change. I definitely encourage everybody, like, be active, not to be passive, right? The activity is what actually just makes you live. Business wise, biologically wise, obviously, this is, I think, what everybody agrees that Nix is a great representative for.
I appreciate you. Yeah, I agree. I think the major thing that we need to do is when it comes to business models, the key issue I think with a lot of finance or fintech companies is they build business models that aren't in the incentive of users winning in the long term. So they don't benefit. I mean, the unique position we're in with an aggregation platform is that we, again, are not only, in a sense, forced to build the best opportunities for people, but we actually make it so our revenue models as a business, they grow, like our revenues grow when our users actually grow, right? If they basically are able to earn deposits in that case, that's the only way we really make money in the long term. If they're not earning that interest, we're not growing, right? And that's one of our key revenue models, for the simple fact we want to make sure that the economic incentives are always aligned where, unlike a lot of exchanges and stuff, not only in traditional markets, when it comes to Forex, when it comes to equities, when it comes to even crypto, many exchanges will trade against their own clients. They don't have the better interest incentives there to really service their user base, right? And they charge ridiculous fees. And on top of that, all kinds of different things on top of the whole, whole thing that they're already charging, right? I mean, they're already building a system that's going to help them win, right? And then they're going to charge additional fees of layers of fees and stuff and complexity. So I think, I agree with you. It's having to reevaluate business models and stuff. That's the problem that I've seen with a lot of applications out there in the fintech space. But man, I don't know. I hope in the long term and stuff, we see much more long-term focus in regards to holding assets. I think Bitcoin's kind of that alternative hedge that a lot of people are looking at. Some people, yes, of course, maybe many of us are probably trading a little more frequently than some other people. But I think most people, as you see the kind of HODL waves of Bitcoin increase, it showcases an interesting trend where a lot of people are just holding it out for the long term and are looking to have something that they can turn to outside of the traditional system. So that's the future I hope for Bitcoin. I hope it, obviously I know it doesn't sound good on an investment perspective, but I hope the volatility does reduce. It becomes more of a safe asset that can at least hedge against the inflation of the world and give people that ability to actually save as they used to be able to do.
Well, tell you what, we've covered some amazing points here, and I want to make sure that I give the both of you the opportunity to leave our listeners with final thoughts. Nick, starting with you, is there anything that you really want to make sure that our listeners take away from today's episode, or anything that you'd like to leave them thinking on before we tune back in next week?
That's a good question. I think we dived in the last hour. We talked about so many awesome things. I would say more than anything, to share the kind of bullet point knowledge that I've kept in my mind and I've really grown over the last few years as I've indulged myself in crypto and in traditional markets. Always focus on longer term horizons, and that's avoiding doing. Again, I don't mean to speak down to it because I've done it myself over the years as day trading and stuff. I would say that the best thing I've learned in the sense of the increase in my portfolio, the lessening of stress when it comes to finance, and really just enjoying finance as a game at the end of the day, is focusing on longer term timeframes and looking at things more like swing trading or long-term investing. And the reason I like that is simply for the pure fact that it's so low in the sense of stress. And I get to kind of call my shots over the next few years. It's something I look forward to as they continue to hopefully grow over the long period of time. And you see the trends kind of emerging in the world. And whether that's crypto, emerging tech companies, whatever it may be, or betting against commodities versus equities, I've enjoyed that kind of trend of focusing on the long term, and also not doing an extensive amount of complex technical analysis, really understanding what's going to drive that trend, what's going to drive the inflows for that asset class, and looking at basic things like support and resistance. Those have been the best things for me over the last few years. And, this past year, whether it's altcoins, whether it's, trading some equities during the recent Fed monetary policy, that's what's helped me out in the sense of investing. So I definitely think those are some key points that I would definitely love to share, and I hope people will take away.
Yeah. So first of all, I would definitely like to leave our listeners with the kind suggestion to go right away to Nick's like YouTube channel Data Dash and leave a follow-up on that. There is no way you can miss it, guys. And well, definitely I highly suggest, you just keep watching Digifox as it grows, because I'm quite sure this is going to, well, be a game changer within this industry. That's what I'm going to do. That's why I encourage everybody else to, to keep a track on, well, because as I said, like the actual adoption, like it always starts from the very organic, like a basis, right? From the very organic, like basic people, everyday people that would just simply see value and kind of like a, time or money saving, well, in an actual offer and proposal that we are just offering against the actual, corrupted banking industry that we're all familiar with, that doesn't necessarily work well. And so to keep and raise this awareness, to keep, digging, to keep searching, I believe is what truly drives the actual interest and truly drives, you further onto the financial freedom. And especially now that it's going to be even more and more with every single day important to you and to everybody else, around you as people, right? This financial freedom. And just a very quick note. I highly suggest you kind of like figure out the best way you can help people around you. And because any actual change for better, you can only do with you trying to deliver something in a very positive manner, with any positive emotions that you can come up with any good will that you want to kind of like introduce and bring into the people. Because there is already enough of the shit in the world, enough of the madness, enough of the dark stuff going on behind the scenes that not many are familiar with. I think we just need to be the change, and the question is, to what extent you're going to build your own awareness to be able to tell what's good or what's wrong, because the difference is going to be more and more blurred with every single day. Whatever you're dealing with, guys, whatever you're doing, keep doing that in the best positive manner you can get, and best positive emotions you can get, and try to simply be a good person and to help people rather than just fucking hurt them, because there is already enough of evil in this world. That's my takeaway message for anybody listening to that. And it's been an honor.
Yeah, absolutely. Same back to you, Adrian. Thank you guys for just having me and stuff. It's been a great conversation, and I completely agree. I think we definitely need to focus on building much more positive things in the world. If you're not working towards something that uplifts people, you're probably not working on something that's worth living for.
And Nick, in addition to the YouTube channel Data Dash and the Digifox application, what is the best place for our listeners to reach you at?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, if you want to check out those sources, you can not only just look up Data Dash on YouTube, you can also check out the Digifox app at digifox.finance or search it up on the App Store. In the sense of contacting me and the things related to Digifox, it's nick@digifox.finance. And in regards to things on the channel, we've got a business email, contactdatadash@gmail.com. But yeah, no, I appreciate it, guys. This was a great conversation. It was cool to get your guys' perspectives on this. And honestly, I think the talking points were really awesome. And I hope to do this again sometime soon in the future.
Cheers. Nick, thank you so much for coming. Adrian, always appreciate you being here. And that concludes this episode of The Nest Show. Thanks so much for tuning in, folks. See you next week. I'd like to thank our listeners for joining this episode of The Nest Show. We invite you to connect with our guest on Twitter, where Nicholas is at Nicholas_Merton. Digifox is at Digifox_finance. Adrian is at CryptoBurb. And I am at BenjaminT1717. Also, for more on the app, be sure to visit digifox.finance. Again, we want to thank our sponsors at Prime XBT for their support of the show and for their support of our listeners. Once again, after signing up to trade at thebirbnest.com/PrimeXBT, be sure to follow up on the announcement channel of our Discord and learn how to capitalize on their generous trading bonus offer that they've exclusively made available to our community. If you've appreciated the depth and breadth of what you've heard with us today, subscribe to our podcast and find our landing page at thebirbnest.com. We have a vibrant Discord community which acts as our central hub of operations, and we welcome you to join us at thebirbnest.com/Discord. We also offer an extensive free bulletin on emerging crypto market trends, exclusive undervalued gem reports, and in-depth expert technical and fundamental analysis at thebirbnest.com/bulletin. We always appreciate engagement from our community, which of course means liking the video and subscribing to our page, where we insist on bringing you the highest quality content available. Also, we're happy to incorporate tips and topics from our listeners and encourage you to email us at thenestshow@thebirbnest.com. This podcast is brought to you by the Birb Nest. Thank you, and trade on.